All right. YouTube says I'm live. Still not quite used to this. YouTube says I'm live, so I'm going to assume that I am live. Howdy. Happy Tuesday as I'm recording this. A couple of notes before. So I'm going to continue on what I was doing yesterday. But I got a couple of notes. I was going to mention on the quick or not so quick, depending. And then we can move on. First of all, apparently on the 16th was Holmes Day 2025. I guess it's the I should probably get the link to this. The 95th birthday for the creator of the Holmes box, Dr. Holmes. Was it J. Eric Holmes, I believe? Am I getting that correctly? And so I think I'm going to do something maybe on the other channel, on the main channel, so it gets a little more exposure than I've got here at the moment. We'll do something with this. I have not gone through the Holmes book at all, so that'll be kind of fun, and it would be a really good opportunity. Maybe I'll do that at the end of the week on the Friday. I'll go through and do that. You know, I was lucky enough to get, look at this, unopened Holmes dice, which is amazing. Oh, and this has even got, these are special. I forgot about this. This has the 20-sided die that's got it's got like tens twice. There's no good dice. I was gonna say this. I didn't have the Holmes box. My intro to the game was some combination of AD&D plus BX. I don't know exactly which ones I got first or the order of collection or just whatever order. Those are the kind of the books that I got. I never got Holmes. So Holmes is something that I got to later, and I was lucky enough to pick up some of this Holmes stuff in the G plus days. So really kind of happy that I was able to get a hold of it. You know, it's look, the thing is, the more things when things get older and, you know, they go for that kind of vintage to antique to whatever. So the value goes up. But there was this golden moment, and I was lucky enough to some extent to take advantage of it during that G plus era where people were really trading things and not trying to make a boatload of money off of it. There was this, I think, a sense of give it a good home. Are you looking for it? I've got an extra, so on and so forth. And there was a lot of, that's how I got my chainmail, and that's how I got my OD&D boxes that I've got. I've got a couple of mishmashed OD&D boxes and the supplements. I got a couple of Holmes, one which has the nice box, which is in really good shape, and kind of I have 2 copies of the blue book inside of there, deities and demigods and early versions. I was able to kind of collect some of those stuff. Some stuff most of it I'd had previously, just had lost through moves and time and all that kind of stuff, and then got back, and then other stuff which I was able to collect for the first time. So I was really happy about that. And now I look back on it and I see the prices people are paying for stuff. It's just, yowzas. Yep, the Beardy Band, those dice are indeed unopened, still inside the plastic with the box. So there's just some water for the working man. Yeah, I'd like to get some. It would be fun to play around with some copies, but I figured, and I'm not a collector. I guess the thing to know about me is I'm not collecting it like mint, always in the box kind of thing. But when I start to use things, I start to spill things on them or get little stains on them and things like that. And it annoys me. I'm the kind of person that doesn't like to bend pages in the book to mark pages and things like that. Just for whatever reason, I like to keep, I'm not someone who gets it's not in me to go and want to sell a bunch of books. If I have to, I absolutely have to. It's like you're going to have to pull them out of my dead hands. But I do kind of like to keep them sort of pristine. So just the reason why I end up with a couple of copies of things is because I know that if I start taking it around the house or out of the house to read, and then, oops, there goes my coffee, or oops, there was some sticky on my finger. Now it's sticky on the page. And so I wanted to keep one. Like, can I just keep one? Can I keep one clean? Can I prevent my lesser, my reptile brain part of myself from destroying it or otherwise mangling it? So in terms of the dice, rather than have them get lost in all my other dice, and I don't need them, so I'm like, oh, I'll just keep them. Yeah, I'll keep them. But it'll be fun to go to a con or something and pull out those dice. But I know that people make replicas. I think I would probably just buy a couple of replica sets. And that way, if I lose one, if I go to a con and then I get back or wherever and suddenly I'm missing a die, I'm not freaking out because it's one of my 1976 or whatever, 77 dice is missing, which it would drive me to distraction. If I had to kind of contend with my own brain on that. Beardy Ben says, I wish they had the sense to pick up some older edition stuff at their local used bookstore when third was the current edition. Yeah, I mean, totally. If I could have thought about it earlier, yeah, absolutely. I would have. I mean, I guess that is kind of when I started picking it up. It was sort of in the waning. Yeah, this is probably, since it's so long ago now, probably the waning days of third, kind of 3.5 started to go and grab stuff again. And that's one of the, so I'm really happy about that. But I'll go through the book. I think I have the PDF. I also have the Blue Home, which maybe I could do at some point. But we'll do something with Dr. Holmes. I think it's really an important kind of milestone. I think it's overlooked a lot. And people have fun with some of the variant rules or just it's a really interesting thing. I guess I don't know if this happens anymore because of all the editors and all the process, which is not, I'm not even calling it's not a bad thing. So you take OD&D, which is this mashup of Arneson's ideas put through this Gygaxian kind of lens. And of course, he puts his own spin on a few things. But it seems to me the way that the discourse is going, that Gygax is a bit of a, and this would be both in good and bad ways, right? With how for Marvel Comics, Stan Lee took credit for a bunch of stuff. And I don't even say take credit, kind of was established, maybe taking credit for stuff that they didn't do. And I'm not even saying that I know Stan, I think in some cases, I don't know the Marvel stuff history all that well either, right? I think literally took credit for stuff. I'm not suggesting that Gygax did exactly the same thing, but this idea that there's this kind of singular person who kind of became the umbrella figure for really a whole bunch of people's work, right? Whether right or wrong, whatever, we can discuss that. And I mean, obviously it's to the extent that people don't get credit for what they did, it's wrong. I guess the right or wrong, I'm talking about whether it was done purposefully to hold on to spotlight and steal spotlight, or if it's just like a front man in a band. Maybe the bass player is really the brains behind the band, but for most people, unless they dig in deeply, they're going to probably look at the lead singer and think, oh, they must be it, right? And Gygax kind of became that lead singer type, whatever. But up until, I guess, maybe Beckme would be the last, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, where you get these people who are credited as editors. And I think that's how Mr. Holmes was credited in here, right? I think he'd be credited as an editor. Let's see what it says. How is he credited? Let's see, where is it? So here we open the book. And yeah, by Gary Gygax. So it's right. So it's rules for fantastic medieval role-playing adventure game campaigns, playable with paper and pencil and miniature figures by Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson, edited by Eric Holmes. So he's credited as an editor in the book. And that's the same thing you see in BX with Moldvay, Marsh, Cook, etc. They're credited as editors. And then with what's his name? It's the same thing with Beckme. Not Moldvay. Who was it? Menser. Okay, with Beckme. But each one of these editors, and Holmes is really the first, got to kind of, remember that OD&D is very much the white box is almost this framework, and you're kind of building your own game out of that framework, but the framework isn't complete. The framework it's this collection of some mechanics and rules and other things, and really relies on either having a bunch of background and other things, and even maybe with that, then you're inventing your own stuff, and everyone's kind of making their own version of this. So 1974, 75, 76, that's what's happening. AD&D tries to kind of, for various reasons, really sort of come up with a kind of an official, all right, let's flatten this all out. But you have these folks like Holmes being the first, who as an editor are really giving you their spin on at least the low levels, because that's what the blue box is. Much like the basic box, it's not meant to give you the whole game. It was really meant to give you the first few levels, and then you graduate into OD&D proper. But of his game, he's not rewriting any rules. Just there's so much stuff that's either missing or it's kind of vague or the way it's worded that you have all this room to say, well, that they don't really say. They don't say how how far you can shoot missile weapons. You kind of, if you don't have chainmail, then you just kind of make something up. And so, okay, well, we can make something up, put it in there, and then it kind of ends up the rule. And we don't have that phenomenon anymore. Maybe in something like the OSR we do, with people taking different rules and kind of riffing on it and putting out their own set, right? You know, like the Into the Odd or Maze Rats sort of family tree of games, where they're sort of branching off when they make different choices. But we had that through, you know, from OD&D through to Holmes, through to BX, through to Mentor, Beckme, and then I guess it kind of faded out. But we'll do that. We'll do that in another thing. I'm gonna flip on the cameras here. So let me flip over. Whoop, whoop. So a couple things here. You will see. I discovered this the other day, an Antarctic Adventure Jam, which was posted on Itch. Here's the original Itch page. I will throw this. Well, I'll throw a couple things in the chat. So here's the Antarctic Adventure Jam on Itch. And then, so this is a, let's see, this is by Idraluna Archives. Hopefully I'm not butchering the pronunciation. They created what they're calling the Great Antarctic Hex Crawl, which is they took, using, I think, QGIS or just GIS data, they created this whole Antarctic hex crawl. It's a tons and tons of hexes, but it's not frozen. It's they've made it temperate. So they've taken Antarctica as its base, but they've made it a temperate continent. So we're not totally frozen. And there's a ton. It's huge. I mean, you look at this. This is just all these little maps are ginormous. This is just trying to show you the scope so that you can kind of pick an area. So they're hosting a adventure jam, which you can basically just grab bits of it. It's over a year, and you can just grab parts of the map and just start making stuff. I think it's really fun. It's hex crawl. It's basically this wide open. There is no implied setting. There's really nothing. So you can go to town, and I guess at some point everyone will be able to throw their stuff together, and you'll have all these different things. I'm imagining there'll be overlaps and stuff. There's basically two ways you can interact with this jam. One is just to do it. You just pick it up, do it, and that's it. There's an optional part, which is they want to put together an Antarctic adventure anthology. And so for this part of it, if you want to do this optional bit, then you're going to want to you claim a spot, you claim a location on the map, so that we're not writing over each other. So if we're both working on doing something, we're not, obviously you don't end up getting the adventure like, hey, we both were writing for the same spot. So there's kind of a claim form. I went ahead and for myself, and I'm hoping some folks out there might do it too, is I claimed an area. This is just a small part of, I think it's a map 11 if you download, and you can download the Antarctic, the hex crawl. It's free, or name your own price. You can download it. This area that I claimed is right around here. So you can see there's all this interland, and section I have is just somewhere maybe here on the coast. So I picked this. I have claimed it. The circle part is where I'm going to start, because I don't want to necessarily claim a whole bunch and then not get around to it. But a lot of it's, we got a lot of mountains and desert and things. I think to me, I looked at this and I thought this was a nice mix. So we've got some cultivated areas, which we could put settlements and stuff. We've got this bay here. We kind of have this peninsula, a little bit of a peninsula, an island, and then kind of other side. So I thought you can kind of have some fun stuff in here. So Purity Ben says free real estate. Exactly. So I picked it. I claimed it. This is the area that I'm going to be working in. It's a year. The jam is going on for a year and 9 days if you join now. So you can really look at it like Hex 25, or you could call it hashtag Antarctic 25, whatever you want to do. You got tons and tons of time. So if you pick, which I think given we have a year and a lot of this is ocean, if you actually count, I think this is very, very doable. Even if I just did one every couple of weeks, I think it would be pretty darn doable to basically get this kind of populated to some degree or another. And it's a lot of fun, and it's sexy hexy. So I created this. I will link to this as well, and I'll post these in the. I'll make a comment or something, or I'll put it in the show notes and in the comment stuff. I want to use the forums for, whoops, for this. That's where I'm going to be putting. I mean, I'll like if you're following this channel and if you're watching this, you probably are. I'm going to be doing stuff in here on that off and on. Probably maybe once a week I'll do a little bit, or I don't know. I'll work it in here and there. But I'm going to be, the forum is where I'm going to be kind of posting updates and probably individual hexes and things. And I'm hoping if other folks get into it and decide to participate, and there are a couple things you can do. One is there's no other, I think if you have an itch account and you can follow the jam, then just join the jam, then that's all. Just join the jam and you can do your own. You can pick your own, little piece of heaven, little piece of Antarctic heaven and go to work. Or if you'd like to, you can, once I start figuring out what I'm going to do and you want to chime in there and do that, you're welcome. You're welcome to do that. I was kind of hoping to do, I like to do community stuff, but it's hard. It's hard for me. Maybe harder for me than for others. I mean, everyone's busy. Everyone's got stuff going on. I get it. I think it'll be fun. If anything, you could just have some, I mean, look, to be honest, if you wanted to, just grab some of this and just use the jam as an excuse to fill it out. And you can use it for anything. I mean, if someone threw this to me as this over thing, this is our world map, I would never have guessed Antarctica. I don't know if they've turned it or the spun, or if that's really what Antarctica looks like underneath the ice. I have no idea. But you could grab any portion of the stuff and drop it anywhere. So it's just a good excuse to do some hex mappery. I mean, well, and that's the other thing. You don't have to map it out. The hex map already exists. I think we are given some latitude if you want to change up the hexes. So I might drill down into these a little bit more, because one thing that's interesting, and I haven't had a chance, maybe I'll try to get them on, see if I can get them on the chat about it. I don't know. So these are 6 mile hexes, because we have, each one of these hexes is 31 and change square miles. But you have, because just oddities, you have desert and farmland kind of right next to each other. So I might change some of those to get a little bit more of a, it's not even so much, I'm not looking for like Earth real, but I think I want to be a little bit more. And I know you can have, it doesn't say anything about what kind of farmland it is. And I actually looked it up earlier about kind of arid farming and things like that. So some of these might be just arid farming techniques. But I also know that when there's weather, oftentimes you'll find where there's a mountain range or tall hills, something like that, you'll get wetter weather on one side and then drier weather on the other side, because the mountains stop. So, if the main weather is, say, going, west to east or some direction like that, then it's likely that this side of the mountains, this western side of the mountains, will have the more gentle climbs, and then maybe that drier on this side. So I might do some things like that just to kind of fix it up a little bit, maybe throw some hills around, sort of thing, or flip it around and maybe this will be all the dry area, and then kind of get rid of some of the dryness over here. I don't know. It's not a huge deal, but it helps. It helps me, because I like to think about regions and, okay, well, what is this area like? And because I want to talk about, well, what do we call this desert region, and what are the aspects about it? And then you're kind of bumping up right into this kind of semi-fertile zone, but it's bordered on both sides kind of by desert. And I suppose it could just mean there's hills here and this is kind of dipping down. Like maybe these are higher elevations, these are lower. I don't know. Got to figure it out. Lots of stuff to do. But you do have, if you do join the game jam, the game jam, it is something that you can do. You can, I can tweak these if I feel like the terrain doesn't quite suit what's happening or what I've got. You can change it. But if I change it, that would probably be. But we'll get into that. I know there will be streams. There will be streams about that once I get to it. But I want to throw it out there because I'd love if folks participated. And but if not, it's cool. It's cool. Do what you can. I have found, and I don't know if I've mentioned it in a stream per se. I think I've mentioned it to people, or maybe I have offhandedly. But I found personally that joining these jams, some of them you can join are really just tiny jams, like just do a tiny little thing. Or one of them I did was something really tiny. Do like a room. Do a room. Another one was just do something in plain text. Another one might be just do whatever. And they're kind of like writing prompts. But I think having writing a prompt is great. And if you're on social media, I see a lot of posts. A lot of people will do have a prompt, whether it's through an organized thing like Sword Timber or Hex or whatever, Hex whatever or Dungeon whatever, hashtag whatever, 23, 24, 25, 26. We'll do that. This is another way to kind of have that. I like the fact that you have almost a gallery where you'll be able to add it to a whole collection. And if you're a creator, I think it's a nice way to get people to see your stuff, whether you're an artist or you write some game content or whatever. I think there's just discoverability by becoming an active part of a community. People will find you that way. So if you're someone who's like, I'm working on something I want to put out, and maybe in Zine Quest or another Zine Quest or just in whatever, I think these little challenges are a great way to do something creative, get yourself in the mode of doing something, and spread the word. And of course, if you're just someone who's a GM and you're just doing stuff for your own game, it's just great because you can see people's ideas, you can get inspiration, and then those prompts are a way of shaking you if you're at kind of that blank page syndrome or you just don't know exactly what to do. I think being inspired by these jams to do something, and also I think the ticking clock, right? You do have a time limit, you do have whatever, and of course you don't have to submit anything. Nothing bad's going to happen if you don't submit something. But I think for folks who find those things helpful in terms of getting and keeping them to gear, I think they're good. All right, Beardy Ben's going to do it. All right. Well, yeah. Feel free to if you're not in the forums already, if you join, I could approve. If you are in there already, I can't remember who's in and not in. But whether you want to just help me out or whether you want to do your own, use that forum post and drop your stuff. And of course, if you have your own blog or whatever, don't do it. And I feel free to, if you're doing it in your own blog, your own space, to drop links or whatever in that thread. But it'll be fun, hopefully, if some people get kind of active in there. We see people updating it as they're going through. I don't think I have anything else. I guess I have one other thing. I've seen this popped over. I don't know where did I see it first? I saw it first. Ghostbane just tuned in the stream, aka Beardy Ben. Okay, cool. I think Beardy Ben and Ghostbane are one of the same. You have to forgive me with other than a couple of people who use the same names across their different things. It is really hard for me to keep track when someone has one name in, say, Discord and then a totally different name on YouTube or somewhere else. I am not going to remember. But cool. That is great. Let's see. Oh, yeah. I was going to look and see, and then we'll get kind of into brass tacks. But I was going to... Where did this come up? Okay. So someone named JPG is looking to do something with... Okay. So here's their project. Let me just get it open. Yes, jump to that. All right, I got that. Can I close this now? So someone named JPG, I saw this, I think they were posting in a few places. So there it was on the OSR Discord. Okay, so it's not Beardy. All right, so cool. So we got a couple of people maybe doing it. Excellent. Okay. I can never remember, so apologies if I say, oh yeah, Ghostbane and Beardy Ben, you're the same. Like, nope, you're not the same. All right, good. Because I will forget. It's really hard. That's why I used to have, use my old video game when I would play more Xbox Live or PS4 Live stuff. I'd use that one. I just flipped everything over to the Hexed Press just so it's easy. It's easy to keep track of it across, because I'll see people like, oh, it reminds me of the Monty Python sketch where, someone will say, oh, and over here I'm known as Raymond Luxury Yacht, but over there I'm Throat Warbler Mangrove. It's like, oh, okay, I'm never going to remember that. Okay, so now this thing that JPG, I don't know if they're JPEG or whatever, they said that they posted this in the OSR Discord, and they're working their way through a handbook to Borshak's lair in advance of running it. If anyone's interested in helping them out, there's a link. You have commanding permission. So I'm just opening it here. Yeah, it's fine. Yes, that is me. I'm just gonna go to download, I think. How do I download it? I just want to download it. No, oh, this is the project. Okay, because there's a couple things, because there is a project also. And I saw someone posted somewhere else. Maybe it was there in another forum, posted a link to the actual thing. Hold on a second. Let me get sort it out here. Where's the other one? Oh, you know, and I have them in different browsers. That's what's one thing, I think. Yeah. All right, let me do this. So, or maybe it isn't. No, it's the same browser. I'm in. Is it? It is. Okay. I'm not going to go into this today, but I might on another day. The Borshak's layer was from the Dungeoneer, and this is some, I don't know, gray market PDF thing. I actually have. I'll just hold on real quick. Let me see. How can I do this? Hold on a second. Too many windows going on. So if I go back here, the Dungeoneer, this, what I have here, and I got this, you know, going back to the Google Plus days. Another thing that I miss is you would do a transaction where you buy something from somebody. You know, oh, I'm selling this book or whatever, right? And you okay, and I'm interested in it, so you buy it, and they would just put a bunch of stuff in the box. It ended up with these oddities in the box with the book I actually purchased. And oftentimes, especially going back now, I'll find all these gems. Like, oh my gosh, this thing was sitting here, and I never would have seen it if it weren't for me buying this other thing. And then I never really thought about it. Something else came up. This is one of them. So the Dungeoneer was Janelle Jaquays's original zine that she first did on her own, I believe. And then, if I'm remembering correctly, I think Daniel, who, you know, it's funny because I was talking to Daniel about it, and then he mentioned, oh yeah, she put out this thing on the Dungeoneer, and then Judges Guild bought it, and they started putting it out. So this, at some point, I guess maybe this right after they sort of picked up on it, they put out this little kind of compendium of the first, I guess, pre-Judges Guild compendium of Dungeoneer stuff. And I think at one point I looked at something in here. Borshak's Lair appears in there. So I don't know where this gray market PDF came from, but I do, in terms of fair use, I have a printed original. So don't come at me. Now, I don't know when they made this one. It does dead name Janelle in here. I have no idea on again, I don't know the provenance. I don't know when it was created. It probably was, you know, OCR'd or wherever, just from magazine, though. I don't know. It looks maybe too clean and neat to do it. I'm not sure if, but I've seen it come up a few times. And like I said, I'm not positive if it's the same person who's posting about it in different places, but we might look at that at some point. It seems kind of interesting, but I don't know. Yeah, old zines are great. And I discovered another one, not quite as old, but I'll probably do this on the main channel. But I found, which is another one of these add-ins, the Dungeoneers Journal has a really funny. I was just gonna read it. Basically, I'll do it on the other channel. I think it's from February, March, 1981, and it's got this great article called, what is it called? The Thespian Judge, and it's basically, you know, you can file it under. There's no new discussions under the sun, but it's this person doing the whole article essentially over basically doing theatricality as part of your GM work, which would completely fit within the modern, say, critical role driven play culture that exists, at least, you know, with modern D&D. But this is written in, you know, firmly in 1981, obviously talking about probably AD&D, maybe Holmes, right? Early D&D or other games. I only briefly flipped through the article quickly. It's a couple of pages long. It just might be fun just to read it and kind of leave without comment, as just sort of whether it's an artifact of the time, or I mean, it is that, but also being that it has continued relevance. And since we keep having these discussions over and over again about things, so funny to see, you know, something that we might think is a very modern thing, you know, the Matt Mercer effect or whatever you call it, and this person's talking about it in 81. Okay. So stuff, and maybe I'll put in a vote, you know, get that, get the old, what do they call it? The engagement numbers going. So maybe I'll put a vote up in the community tab after the stream, if I can remember, over maybe what to do next over here, either Borshak's Lair or something else. I don't know. Got a couple of things, but now we're going to get back to this. What I was working on yesterday, I'm going to switch tacks a little bit. I don't want to get stuck right now. This is what happens to me. I don't know if it happens to you, but I have these ideas for like this stuff with characters and how they work, but it's not really the main part. But you get, or at least I do, caught up in these things like, oh yeah, all this stuff, and then you lose track of like, no, wait a minute. Like there's really much more basic things before I get to kind of what a character looks like in terms of the PC. Like what does a player character look like in terms of kind of how they're generated and that stuff. It's like there's more core things I want to get into, core concepts. And one of those concepts, I mean, well, I guess it's linked together is kind of combat and equipment, kind of arms and armor, things like that, right? So I actually had a bit of was it an epiphany? Maybe it was an epiphany. Maybe it was. Where is my? I need to get. I don't know why Windows does that when I'm. Is that a setting I can turn off? I imagine you see it too, where I'm trying to highlight a window to go to, and then it just shows the desktop, and so you get this kind of weird. What's on my screen blinks out for a hot minute until I decide to, and I don't like it, especially in terms of streaming. I really don't like it, but I don't know how to get rid of it. So somebody, if you know how to get rid of it, let me know. Oh, that's the wrong one. I want. No, it's not the one I want. I want. No, not that one. No, I guess this one. Yep, this one. Okay. Now I'm going to switch over. Or actually, what I want to do, I don't need any of this stuff. So I wanted to look up. Let me see if I can find. Where's what is it like Pixabay? Can I find? I don't know. Looking for one of those man. Yeah, one of these man images. Not maybe one that's simplified but not goofy. That one could work. So let me. I just want to. Let me explain this. I could probably. Oh, that one might. Though I don't know. It doesn't have to be like. It doesn't have to be uber muscular. That one, I don't know why it's got weird colors. I really just want one that's black and white. Can I? Can I just get a black and white? Will it be too restrictive? I probably. Here's the again. I probably just need to. Let me just get one. Let me just see if there's black and white. If there is, and it's not that one. I guess I could use that muscle head. That one's too simple. Come on, is there not? Is there nothing? All right, let me grab. Oh, these are kind of. I don't dislike these stick figures, but not. Yeah, get off my phone. You should know that I'm streaming. Don't have time for that right now. All right. I'm sure I could find a good. I don't know which museum has the actual Da Vinci thing digitized, but I'm sure I could find one. So let's just go ahead. We will grab Muscle Man. Though I don't need the full thing. I really just want the guy with his arms outstretched. But I suppose that's how the Da Vinci one is, right? So I'll have to simplify one and do one myself. But we'll take him. And then I will also, I've got designer up already. So let's see, file, new, and we'll just do it in letter. That's fine. This is just need, there we go. All right. I could probably find, like I said, I'm not going to worry too much about it. I have already worried more about it than I want to. Can I? Oh, it's going to make me do that. I actually have, yeah, I do have a thing here, don't I? Yeah. No. Oh, sorry. Log in. Thank you. Not now. Bitwarden. Thank you. There we go. Can I drag and drop you? Is this working? Is this working? Oh my gosh, it's huge. That's okay. Oh my year. Oh my gosh, there we go. Okay. So huge. All right. Didn't realize it would quite be that massive, but that's okay. We can work. We can work with this. We can work with this. I know this is like it's a long setup for probably something that's not super impressive, but here we go. All right, so here's the idea conceptually that you're going to be able to have different armor pieces. Let me make some boxes. So I'm doing a very simple system is what I want to do with damage. Oh, sorry, I just gotta find all these. Where's the hue cell grayness? There it is. I just get all the way gray. Thank you. I don't need a fill. Thank you. And let's make this up a little bit bigger. Can we go to 2? Oh, let's do 2. So I'm really talking about, how can I explain this? The concept here is that there's a very simple thing, right? We're talking about hit dice before, right? You have one hit die that you can take kind of 1 damage, something happens. I'm calling the kind of damage you take, I'm calling it strain, which I will just type out here just because why not? Right. So we have strain. Now, strain, okay, works for anything. Anything that could damage you. Basically, I'm making no, so what I'm doing is I'm simplifying and I'm making no separation between any kind of injury, mental, physical, emotional, I don't care. It's all strain. How a particular character handles strain, I'm happy to leave that up to the player. I've said this before. I don't love, one of the things I don't like about a lot of times with insanity mechanics is they just don't tend to be very respectful of real mental conditions, of real things. So someone will say like, oh, you're schizophrenic. And then it's like, you got to do this thing. And that's, I don't find that very respectful of people who actually suffer, have to deal with real schizophrenia. They happen to be playing the game. I think oftentimes it just leads to kind of the kind of stuff that I've complained about and talked about where people pick up and like, I'm schizophrenic, so I'm going to act like this complete whatever. And it's like, that's, I've got 8 personalities. And it's like one of these movies. I'd rather just avoid it. If like, to me, is if you want to do that, that's fine. Work at your table, your friends, your player, your thing. You do that. But for me, mechanically, I don't care. So if you take a strain and it's because you're exhausted, the impact is the same of you taking a strain and you're hurt. In other words, you're exhausted, so you can't move very well. Well, you're hurt and you can't move very well. And if you want to play up some nuance of the fact that it's exhaustion causing it versus having been hit with a mace, totally fine. But the mechanical upshot is the same. Terrence says, you've seen a kobold. You now have PTSD brought on by imposter syndrome. Yes. I don't want to do that. So I just have strain. And so you can gain strain in any number of different ways. As you gain hit dice, as you level up, you will be able to absorb more strain before it essentially knocks you out, right? At level 1, you only have 1 strain. If you take a strain from whatever thing is, you're laid out, whether that means you're bleeding on the floor or you're just knocked unconscious. I don't really have I don't have any really rule that for that kind of a bleeding out type thing, but we can work with that. And if it comes to it, you can decide what it means, but I'm not separating out. I'm not having different ones. So you just have this one currency, and that's it. Jason says they work with schizophrenics. A true schizophrenic would not be able to play a ttrpg, even Medicaid. Okay, I'll take your word for it. But that's just one example. Like there's plenty of you're depressed or whatever. You've seen these games where they'll give you all these things, and it's kind of like, now you're depressed, so this, or now you do whatever. And I just don't want to deal with any of that. If that's something you want to deal with at your table, you can decide that, oh, you saw a ghost, and this strain reflects whatever. My point is that I don't want to be making those choices. And this way, you and your players, if you're playing the system, can decide on whatever choice makes sense to you. And if it seems like you're a medical professional or medical professional adjacent, then you can play it however you like, knowing all the things that you know about those conditions that I don't know anything about. But this way, I'm not forced into doing some goofy stereotype that I don't necessarily know about or really want to do. And nobody has to do that. So you're going to have, whoops, no, that's not what I wanted to do. So we've got strain. And I've gone back and forth as to how much strain. I think the simplest one, which I think I'm going to go with, is that you just have one. Maybe I do need to put a fill in here. See, I was saying I didn't need one, and I do. Or maybe a different color. Swatches, not grays, colors. Yellow work. There we go. So you might have one strain here. And I've toyed around, and I'll probably toy around a bunch more times. I thought about having 3 strain, one being kind of body, one being spirit, and one being your mind. And you could choose. I might still do this so that one, it would give you a few strain to play with, and those effects would be differently. And the where I have struggled or gone back and forth is what those things mean, because then you are making some differentiation. If it's your head, if it's your kind of your I think I had like basically body, mind, spirit. If your spirit is laid out, then you're essentially you've been overcome, at least momentarily, by not necessarily corruption, but by despair. Right? You're despairing. If your mind goes out, then you're unconscious. You've been knocked out. You're incapacitated. And if your body goes out, then you're immobile, or you really can't move. But your head is still in the game. You know, that kind of classic moment happens a lot where somebody get kind of kicked on their keister. Maybe they're dying, maybe they're not. You know, they can't really move, but they can still say something like, "Oh, you got to go on." Like, you can do that. Your body is out of it. Maybe you can get it back. Maybe you get a little healing or whatnot, but your brain is still in it. If your brain gets knocked out, then your body might be okay, but you've gone unconscious from something. And then if your spirit goes out, then you don't have, you've kind of lost the will to do things. And each one of those can have some different effects. So I might still go with that, because I kind of do like it. I think it does fit thematically with some of the things I'm trying to do, but they're all kind of different parts of it. So maybe I'll just throw in make some squares. So we got one over the kind of this head, and then put it above, right? So we have kind of like that, right? So we've got, I don't know if I need it that far away. So you got your mind, your body, your spirit, let's say. Now what you have is what we're boy, I'm really going around the long way to get to what I was going on, is armor. So what does armor do? Armor gives you buffer. Gives you buffer to taking on strain. Now, of course, one of the reasons I will say exhaustion will be different from something else is you can't block exhaustion with armor. Same thing. If I don't know, if there was some kind of mental assault, or maybe you're being charmed or something, you can't block, right? So the strain is one, this kind of strain, your hit dice strain, it's all kind of one thing. At the same time, right, different things will apply. So, armor will obviously can only apply to physical strain. Some stuff you might have a talisman or something, which might help you against spiritual strain or mental strain, so on and so forth. Right? So there is some differentiation there. So essentially, armor and other things, I guess we were calling armor, what I'm going to call armor just for our purposes here. Actually, I'll just copy paste one I already have and just shrink it a bit. And I'll give it another color. Let's go with a nice blue. So you sort of have these blocks. I don't know what I don't want to call it. So this is because strain is not the thing. I guess I'm really explaining this poorly. Strain fills in these blocks. You've got a certain reservoir of strain. And when you can't take any more strain, we filled it up, then obviously you're in trouble. So strain is filling things up. And I have a couple of ways this will work, and I'll show you kind of in a minute, but we're just for the armor bit. So armor gives you some absorbs strain. So let me it's almost like your well-being inventory. you have so many slots that you could fill, and then once you filled that, you can't do anything. That's a good practical way to look at it, but it's not the lingo I'd probably want to use. But I think that might help explain. So armor, I'll just put another, where's the other? Let's get another, absorbs strain before it can impact the character. Okay. So this is what we're talking about. I'm saying armor, that's what I mean. And I think I do like the idea that potentially you can have armor of different kinds that does different things. I got to remember that. So anyway, okay, so you have strain. This is your damage. I guess I'll write that in too. Strain is damage that affects a character negatively, either in their body, mind, or spirit. Okay. All right, so that's strain. Armor absorbs strain before impact. So you take on damage, you would check these off, check these off, check these off as you have armor. But I thought of something. So the kind of the epiphany part of this whole deal is that let's just let's see. I gotta kind of set this up a bit. Let's set this up a bit. So we're just gonna talk about physical for right now. So you're wearing a helmet called a leather helmet. Okay, leather helmet has one armor associated with it. We'll just put that there, right? So your leather helmet there. Maybe you've got so we'll just go ahead and come down here and say, okay, you've got, I don't know, breastplate. And that has 3. And then, sorry, we can put these all together, I guess. Whoops, not you. Hold on, let me lock you in before I can't move you around. There we go, you 3, we can go over here. So you might have on your physical. No. These down. So let's just call it your physical armor. Okay. You guys following along? Let me know if I'm losing anybody or if it's just unclear. I'm still a fair amount of this is also stuff that's kind of in my brain that I'm kind of working out here. So it's if it's not totally clear to you, it might also not be totally clear to me. But this is what I'm working through. Okay, so we got a physical armor. Right, we got a leather helmet, we got a breastplate. Oh, I don't know. Is that it? Let's just we got some sure leather bracers. Maybe that's it. Oh my gosh. I forgot I didn't turn on the other camera. Oh my gosh. Sorry. Someone should have told me. I forgot. Oh my gosh. I've been doing all this stuff and you guys can't see it. All right. Oh my gosh. Yep, that's where we are. All right. Let me Oh, I'm glad you finally said something. I would have just kept going. I forgot that you guys can't see it. Okay. All right. So here I put this guy in here. Strain. Strain fills up these boxes. I don't know what to call these boxes yet, other than your hit dice, your hero dice, maybe your hero spots. Strain fills these boxes. Okay. Armor absorbs strain before it can impact you. So before you got to worry about these things going on, and you'll get more of these. This is your core. I should probably put this is your core, right? So let's see. Let me see. How can I do this? Make this nice and okay. This is your core. I hate Arial. There we go. And we will give you. Oh, let's see. I do need the studio. Is it left? Oh, yeah. Window. Whoops. No, wrong one. All right. Let's Bonnie. Yeah. I can put a stroke on it this way. Whoa. No. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So we got Bonnie here. Mind there. And spirit. Okay. So this is your core. Is your core. And I think I might have these 3, but it might change. I suppose just for our purposes, we could just kind of sort of save ourselves some real estate. These are your core. Physical armor can protect your body. Now we're rolling with hit dice. So let's say that I have. So let's just say, okay, let me see. How can I make this work? Okay, so I need a little bit more. So I need, let's see. How can I? All right, let's do this. Let's take this. Put this maybe over here. So I also have a capability. Okay, which is basically my hit dice. I'm just gonna call it hit dice for right now. I kind of rename it hero dice and stuff I'm doing so I can keep using HD, but it's hero dice. And so let's say I am level 2. Okay. That's my character. That's my character level. I'm level 2. So what does level 2 mean? Well, it really means I have 2 hit dice. Okay. I have 2 hit dice. So when I'm rolling to do something, and there might be circumstances, lots of things might give me more dice to roll, right? But by default, whatever I'm doing, I get to roll 2 dice. And for this purpose, we're talking combat right here. Your combat's going to be um your by default 2 dice. Okay, all things considered, you're rolling 2 dice. Okay. Also means that by default, I've got these two plus, and then these things. So essentially, as long as I have some hit dice remaining, I'm active. This is kind of the hit point type thing, right? Conan's got 1 hit point left. He's still essentially Conan. Conan's got 100 hit points left. He's essentially Conan. It's the fun happens when you get down to 0. So we've got that. Let me do something. Yeah, I'm gonna need a wingding. Let me get a wingding going. Can I get a wingding? I don't know why they make these so small. Hard to see anything. I want an X. Where's an X? Is that an X? No, that's a scissors. I don't want a scissors. I just want a nice X. Good old fashioned X marks the spot. Not some kind of German imperial iron cross. Just a nice X marks the spot X. I know you have it here. Where are you? Where are you? I don't want a box. Just want it plain. Am I spacing out? I know it's here. Unless it's in Wingdings too, but I'm pretty strong. I feel pretty strongly it should be there. Where are you doing? X in the box. X. Na, 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 na. There's okay. Oh, there you are. There you are. All right. Whew. So we got this. We got this guy. X. X marks the spot. So let's say what happens. So now, in our hypothetical, our guy, whoops, 2. No. Our man, Mr. 2 hit die, second level dude. Okay. Are you hanging in here with me? What happens is we're in combat and we're fighting somebody, I don't know, a troll or something. Let's say something or a couple of the guys. Someone's going to do us a bunch of damage. Right? So this is what I've been thinking. So the troll comes along and we're in melee with the troll. We got our leather helmet, our breastplate, and our bracers. Okay, it's maybe not what we would most want. I mean, but whatever. We're good. Troll hits us for, the troll's rolling at least 4 dice, potentially more. But let's just say 4 dice. And let's just say that this is the worst case scenario. Troll hits us 4 times. So now we got hit by this troll 4 times. Well, we can't take 4 hit dice. If we had no physical armor, okay, if we didn't have any of this, we would say, all right, well, we take 1. Oops. I'm just going to take off this one. I don't need the. Oh, no, it's not there. It's the. Yeah. Okay. Maybe I'll just change the color of it. There we go. Oh, that's kind of, no, not that color. Not that color. Red. All right, sure. A little bit. Doesn't quite match the background of this, but that's actually good. Calls that. So if we had to take those 4 hits, where you go, okay, 1, 2. All right, that's all right. We take that one. We still got 2 left over. So now, unfortunately, we got to engage and we say, okay, well, we're going to lose our mind. So we're going to get knocked out. Okay. And we're going to say our body, we're knocked out too. We're still alive. We're not completely out because we still got our spirit, or we're hanging in there, but we might be dying. Right? This is that. I think I'll have some kind of state that's basically you're out. And once you reach this point where you're taking damage here, depending on what you're doing, you're kind of out of the combat until, because basically, if you're in despair, your mind is still there, but you're not right. So you can't really act the way you would want to. And we could think about, I would probably just leave that up to, again, another kind of table. Interpret this how you will. Mind, your unconscious body, your broken ribs or something. You're still conscious potentially, but you can't, I can't feel my legs kind of thing, right? You're out of it. In any case, once you start getting into this, is you're basically you're out until combat is resolved or the situation is resolved, in which case, however that situation resolves will then probably determine what happens to you. So if you're fighting the troll and then the rest of the party, this happens to you, the rest of the party defeats the troll, you're probably okay. If the party flees and you're left with the troll, we might play around with it, but you're at the troll's mercy. And if we replace troll with, say, some kind of ooze, then you're dead, because the ooze is just going to roll over you and absorb you or do whatever it does. And there's nobody around to save you. But I'm okay with taking that state and putting you in sort of a, we don't know what's happening with you yet, letting combat play out, and then we can roll dice or do whatever to figure out what's happened to you in here. But you're out of it. That's the kind of worst case scenario, right? You've taken those 4 shots. Your hit dice can only absorb 2 of the strain. Essentially, the rest comes. So what happens is you pick up strain. So the idea here is whatever that damage would be, I would say you just picked up 4 strain. Just put these over here for right now. You picked up 4 strain. Then you, as the player, you say, okay, now I'm going to figure out how do I want to absorb this strain? What can I do? So now we're going to say we have our armor. I've picked up 4. I'm finally getting around to the kind of epiphany moment. I had been talking yesterday. I've been going back and forth of, do I want this leather helmet, for example, to just take up 1 strain or to take up a full attack? How does that work? Because this is 1 attack, which did me 4 strain. And in version 1, if we take the first version of this, the initial version, it would have been, I use up the helmet and then maybe the bracers and then 2 of my breastplate. Now this is okay. This is okay because I've absorbed it. All my armor has brought to bear, and between all of it, I've absorbed that 1 attack. Now, of course, if I get hit with 4, if I take 4 strain for the next attack, I'm going to be in a similarly bad place. It won't be quite so bad because I'll be able to hit 1 here, 2, 3. I'm still entering the bad zone. The second version, which would be that, okay, it takes up. So that was if you have to account for each strain individually. Second version was, well, you've picked up 4 strain, and now you have to account for that strain. As you can say, okay, well, it all goes to my leather helmet. My leather helmet is, because the thing with the armor in this system is armor doesn't rebound every round. So when your leather helmet gets taken up, it's used up for this fight. Like, that's it. Your leather helmet did its job, and that's it. So it's like a buffer. It's a little bit of you get a little breather. You can't keep going to the helmet. Now, I want to flip it over a minute. You've got 2 hit dice. If you're fighting a couple of soldiers, let's say just level 0, they have 1 attack each. If one of them hits you, you can take it on your hit dice. The great thing is hit dice at the beginning of your round come back to you. You have to be completely knocked out. Someone, in order to take you out, you have to fill up all their hit dice in 1 combat round. This is where you can get the kind of Conan type things where you can have somebody in a loincloth, no armor, but they've got 8 hit dice. You're going to have to hit it hard. You're going to have to get a lot of guys. You're going to have to do that kind of thing like that you see in Sword of Sorcery, at least the Conan type stuff, where you have some overwhelming warrior and 30 guys have to pile on them to grab them and pull them down, because those guys individually can't do it. So you can get to that point. If you're a 4 hit dice, then you are super formidable in these particular operations, because they got to hit you 4 times in 1 round. So you can be, depending on your opponents, you can say, okay, well, I'm gonna keep this. I'm gonna have this take. I can, if it's only 1 attack, well, I don't need to engage my armor at all. I'll just take the strain. I'll just take it and put it here. Now, the what's the word I'm looking for? So whatever. All right. So hold on a minute. So here's how this works. If the first person attacks you, they do 1 strain. You put it here. At the beginning of your next turn, whatever your hit dice have absorbed, you're good. So you can take, your second level, you got 2 hit dice. And you could turn a level away, just whether you have how many hit dice you have or hero dice. Okay, so you're still okay. But of course, those 2 more, now they suddenly have to be dealt with. Now here was my idea for armor, which I think is cool, but I'll hear what you guys think. One of the things back in the Conan RPG, if you ever saw the TSR Conan RPG, it's a very flawed little game, but it has a feature I really like, which is all that mismatched armor stuff. Because basically they were doing hit locations. So you could have just a leather breastplate or a leather lorica or something, and you could have a steel helmet. You could have greaves and some kind of pattern. All this stuff could be all mismatched because what would happen is when a creature or an enemy hit you, what your sort of your armor class was or how armor would depend where it hit you. So I would roll and say, okay, you've been hit, and you've been hit in your torso. And then you would say, aha, on my torso, I'm wearing chainmail, so I'm well protected. But if I'd hit you in your left leg, you're basically just wearing nothing, or whatever, just some pantaloons. So then it would be much more. You wouldn't have that protection, which it's cool. Now not that it falls apart, but when you're dealing with monsters and stuff, then it's like, well, they never give you hit locations for monsters. Hit location stuff is really only for you and other human opponents, which granted, in Conan stories, oftentimes you're fighting other people. There's, like if you think of a lot of Conan stories, at least the ones that I think about, there's usually some kind of crazy, horrible thing that's in a place, but Conan usually is not. I mean, not that never, but a lot of times he's not attacking or he's not fighting that thing. It's usually some kind of timer, or you're trying to get whatever, something else happening, and he's fighting all these humans who are either trying to sacrifice him to the thing, or they're all running away from the thing, right? Something like that, where it's like Conan's just going out and there's some horrible terror behind him, and whoever he doesn't beat is, if he doesn't get out in time or something like that, then some horrible thing's going to happen. So it doesn't matter if you're playing real kind of Conan type stories like that, it doesn't matter so much. But in terms of a greater D&D context where you're fighting all kinds of monsters, it sort of falls apart a little bit. And at one point, I know I messed around, let's do hit locations for everything, but it feels like you just end up in such a, at least the way I was thinking of it, maybe someone's done a great job of it, but I just felt like you end up with all these exception-based stuff. And I'm not really trying to get into hit locations. I really do like to kind of keep it. But this system lets you kind of do kind of hit locations in a sense, but you're picking it yourself. Anyhow, let's go back to we've taken 4 damage. My idea is that, okay, you can take, hey, Beardy Ben, thanks for hanging out. You can take 1 to your helmet. Okay. Now your helmet is cooked for this battle, but it will be, it's not damaged though. Next battle, and maybe you need to have some kind of break, take a 10-minute breather or something. Next battle, you're good. Or you can have it, you can basically have it absorb double, but it's destroyed. So I can say, all right, you know what, I need this. I really can't. I'm however I feel like this fight's going, whatever. I don't want to see it go through. I don't want to use up all my armor. So I'm gonna say that, this helmet's just gone. So I can double its protection value, but it's destroyed. So now next combat, I just don't have the helmet. It's rent, torn, crushed into a pulp, whatever it is. All the threads have run loose, something like that. So another version of this same combat or this same thing is like, okay, I'm gonna do the same thing with my bracers. I'm gonna spend those bracers all the way to the hilt. Now I've still got my breastplate. These things are destroyed, but I've kept my breastplate. So now, right, we're talking with something that does potentially 4 hit dice of damage. My breastplate will be able to, between my breastplate and my hit dice, I'll be able to absorb now a couple of attacks, at least 1 attack more, maybe. And I don't know if the math is going to work, but remember, you might be in a combat where you don't have all these things already. You don't have necessarily, you filled some of these, whatever's going on. So it's tough. Does that make sense? And what I like about it is something that you don't tend to deal with a lot in games is, yeah, you upgrade your armor, but you don't lose a lot of that stuff. And I'm someone who, you could probably go back and find the quotes. I'm not huge on the, you got to do the kind of Zelda thing, like Breath of the Wild. And I love these Zelda wilderness games, kind of wilderness exploration games. But what drives me nuts about them is the way you go through equipment, where it's like, oh yeah, I feel like you're just getting started with something and it's like it's breaking on you and you got to make another one. That's what kind of drives me nuts. But here's an opportunity, or here's a system through which you can have that stuff get destroyed, but it's not in the annoying Zelda thing, because it's me as a player. I am deciding, I'm making that choice. I'm sacrificing my own equipment. So I could not do that. I could do this completely like I'd done it before. It's like, oh, Yeah, okay, one, next one, the bracer takes this one, and then, I can put these two here, right? So I can use up my 2 hit dice, and I can use up these, okay? And now if nobody else hits me, I'm good. And then I'll get these back. They'll go off the board. And then I'm okay. Actually, I forget. I'm trying to remember now because I have some different versions. In one version, they actually stay on your hit dice, but I think I don't have that in combat because I don't want the death spiral. Because one version of this I've been toying with is that when you fill up the hit dice, they stay filled. But actually, I don't. I think I ended up kind of what I've been talking about. I'm just thinking about it now, like, oh yeah, I had that other version, but no, I think I like this one better. This one, you would end up being down to 1 hit die, but I want you to have that same opportunity. But once you once you kind of fill those and you go beyond, then you're sunk. And I might have, and bodies one. It'd be interesting too. This is the fun thing about design, having kind of design discussions or these, I don't know, theory crafting discussions is, I could think about, well, maybe you get more body stuff as you go. But hey, Ian, we are taking a coffee break. It has been kind of a long coffee break. Yeah. Oh, right. So that's kind of the idea. So you'll be able to then, if you want to, double the effectiveness of a piece of armor, but then you lose it. And I think something I was looking at, because one of the things I was going, kind of part of what I was going through this whole exercise, what kind of got me in this thing is I was looking at armors, I was looking at equipment, and I've been looking at my trusty post-Roman kingdoms Osprey, or with the wrong way, Osprey guide. Dark Ages go on Britain because I wanted to do something more where your kind of armors look more like this, more like kind of this guy, and not your classic. I want to move a little bit away, go kind of back in time from the sort of classic plate mail armored knight to having maybe a breastplates or chainmail, ringmail, brigandines, kind of that sort of stuff. And I think a system like this, not necessarily, but I feel like you can have some interesting concepts. Because one of the things with the classic, and I don't know if this will work out, right? I may be, I want to say I'm writing checks I can't cash, but I haven't thought it out fully. But I was wondering, since we might be just dealing with pieces, we can have some different, it allows you a lot of different things. So you can have different helmets that do different things. I hadn't gotten the shields yet, but I was thinking about, well, how can shields work? I think like shields can also have maybe work a little bit differently than they work out in a regular game. Maybe you can't, kind of not having the shields be splintered kind of thing, but maybe a shield is something you can get back. Like you can always get it back, or maybe it has more of a buffer. I don't know. The one thing I like about this, I like about this is if you could, have some version of this on a character sheet, and it's very easy to just kind of flick through. And I could see in person, if you're playing an in-person game with a character sheet like this, you could hand out strain when you get hit as a poker chip or some other little chit. And I think maybe it was you, Ian, or folks talking about on the Discord, talking about what they like Mouse Ritter, and Mouse Ritter has kind of chits you do. This has the ability also to use extra dice or chits to fill in these kinds of strains. So you can have if you're playing it in person with a physical character sheet, you can have a very visual representation of what your character's doing. But I was thinking, well, you could have maybe some different, because the variety of like ringmail versus chainmail, whatever. I don't know. You could maybe have some. I was thinking like a breastplate, maybe gives you 3, whereas chainmail will give you 2, but breastplate also gives you fills up an extra inventory slot, something like that. Ian says I could leverage the armor damage and repair rules from the Black Hack. See, I don't want to do that. I'm not I don't want to. I don't like that part so much of it. I just want I think it's just that destroy stuff, because remember, it's going to be completely up to you as a player. If you want to destroy your breastplate because something hits you super hard, because remember, your breastplate can absorb 3, and so you're kind of sitting like that, and you're like, okay, maybe you got hit 2, and then something else hit you for 4, and you're like, I need extra so I can boost this from 3 to 6, but those 2 are still filled, but then I can put 4 in here. Then my breastplate's just gone. I like that, because I'm not, as the GM, or whoever is the GM, is not forcing you to do that. You're deciding to do that. So you either can take the damage, take your armor out of it, and your just breastplate's just sunk. And I'm sure I'd have some kind of modifier if you have magic armor or something like that. I don't know. I don't know how easily I want to make magic armor destroyable, which also means it's really good to get magic armor, because hey, that stuff does come back. So you want to kind of get that. Ian says that's how it works. The player decides their armor takes the hit instead of them, so they put a die on their armor. Yeah. Yep, the player would put it in. And the idea, Ian, is that if I'm looking at it, say I say, okay, leather helmet can take one strain, which is what I'm calling damage. I can double the amount it can take, but then it's destroyed. So if I needed that leather helmet to take 2 damage instead of 1, I can do it, but then I destroy my helmet is gone. And if I make that choice as a player, it's just gone. No kits, no whatever. You're just, it happened, whatever, and you can narrate kind of how it works, but it's gone. Right. So as a player, you can decide whether you want to make that armor extra effective, but the cost is you lose the armor. So for instance, and the neat thing is that does allow you to kind of scale things up if you need to be lucky, is let's say you're fighting, I don't know, a smaller dragon or something that does 6 damage. You can put that all on your breastplate. So hey, that first time that thing comes around, it's like, all right, yeah, the dragon hits you with your claws, its claws, and you're like, okay, you know what? I was able to get it with my breastplate, but my breastplate's toast. That's probably worth it. That's probably a good exchange. But now you look at it and you're like, okay, now as a player, you're like, yeah, oh yeah, my gosh, I survived. But now that's not only is it used up, it is done. So guess what? If that 6 comes again and you're level 2, you have 2 hit dice. Yeah, you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're pretty much dead, or dying. You are out of the fight. You take one more hit like that, a full whatever that full brunt 6 hit dice worth of attacks. Now, given that I'd be using kind of my D6 system with this, it's not necessarily going to be super easy for them to roll 6 hits on you, but it's certainly possible, because say a dragon with 8 hit dice might have +2 to each die. So now instead of having to roll 6s to hit you like some mook does, they can roll 4 and hit you, which means it's basically a 50-50 per die. So the chance of them hitting 6 out of 8 isn't horrible. If they're allowed to just go after you unchecked, it's not that thing. So it keeps the and I even have some things where I want to put in about how you reach certain thresholds where you become even more effective. So that 6 hit die dragon, given that it's kind of a fantastic creature, has the potential to be doing more damage. So it's even harder. And that's another way where magic armor can help even the playing field. That maybe against non-magic armor, that dragon, because it's a fantastic creature, does double whatever it rolls in damage. So now you're toast. But if you're wearing the magic armor and you've got then you got magic equipment, suddenly it evens the playing field again. So you can have a lot of fun stuff with that. But I really like the idea that it forces you to kind of recycle your things, that you're going to be going through a dungeon and you're going to have to make hard choices about, oh shoot, I can't, we've been running around and this stuff has happened. It's like, I can't afford to take more hits. So I got to, I gotta sacrifice my gear. And so I'm gonna have to get more gear, or I'm gonna have to find gear in the dungeon and throw it on there, because I know what happens for me, and I think a lot of times you end up with the gear and you only change out that gear when you level up. It's like, oh, I got a new helmet, so I toss the old helmet in the trash. Well, I'm hoping with this kind of system is you might not have that luxury of just holding on to that helmet. You might need to use it up, and so you're like, geez, I need to get another helmet. Or now you're looking around saying, hey, does this guy have a helmet on? Because I could use that helmet. And then you can have fun narrating what it means if you sacrifice your helmet so that the ogre swings and doesn't kill you with its club. You kind of have this circular mechanics informing the fiction, fiction in that the ogre is swinging at you, informing mechanics. You decide you can absorb everything, but you have to sacrifice your helmet, which then kind of gets back into the fictional part of what does that mean? You're able to move aside, but the swinging of the club just takes out your helmet, but you're mostly unscathed, but now you're helmetless. Ian can attest in the Black Hack that players are looking around the dungeon for a replacement armor. That's good. We want that. I want that stuff for sure. Absolutely, for sure. And then the other thing I was thinking of now that I'm remembering it is that, and Ian, this will be kind of maybe new for you since I think you missed this part, is basically when you take on strain, assuming you have no armor, just to say all this stuff's gone, you fill up your hit dice. If you only fill up your hit dice, you're good. You get those back at the start of the round. So as a level 2, as a character with 2 hit dice, you can basically take 2 strain in a round of combat, and it won't affect you. Okay. Here's the kicker, though. If you fill up those 2, and either your armor's gone or you have no armor, then you have to start. Your core gets affected, and once your core gets affected, this is affecting your basic ability to do things. You do not want this. This is basically death. Your spirit's gone, your mind's gone, your body's gone. If you're only filled 2 out of the 3 like that, you're still like, this one's like you're holding on, right? You're fighting it. Death is calling your name, but you are fighting it. Okay, that's good. Or if it was this, well, your mind is still kind of you're intellectually aware, even though you can't move. Or if it's this, you're sort of knocked out, but your body is okay. Like whatever wounds, you're not actually, it's something, or your spirit and your mind, but your body is still, and if you can repair, if you can get out of the situation without all 3 being filled, you're still salvageable. But here's the thing. This is what I'd forgotten about before. When you're not in combat, so this is kind of in a combat situation, right? So combat ends, you're able to take a breather, you get your hit dice back. You still have to account for these. And you can't use armor to get rid of them. So effectively, we'll just have to take that one off. So effectively, you're like this. So combat ends, or you get up and like, okay, you get your hit dice back, but you took these 2. Like, you were knocked out. Now, whenever you're doing stuff, let's say, in this case, this is actually a really bad. Let's just say you had this one, because that would be bad. So you're kind of knocked out. Your brain's still active, your spirit still hanging in there, but your body is, you've been toast. But they kind of bandage you up or whatnot. Okay, the breather. So you might not have this strain anymore in your body, so you can move around. They've bandaged you up and they've done stuff, but that's just kind of first aid type thing, right? It's not true recovery. They've kind of they're getting you sort of stabilized, whatnot. You still have that strain. And anytime you get into something, whether it's combat or something else, you have to account for this strain before you can roll dice. So you have 2 hit dice to do stuff, and potentially you might have more dice depending on other things. You're gonna have to take one of those strain and fill in one of those dice or one of those things. So now your capability level 2. Now every time you do something, you're going to roll 1 die, because before you do anything, before we get into combat, or whatever, you're gonna have to account for that strain. And you can't use armor, and you can't you can't use your core. So if you're a 2nd level player and you get knocked out with both your mind and your body, your day in the dungeon's done, because you're essentially, anything you want to do that you have to roll dice for, it's going to be really hard because your dice are gone. Again, some things will give you more dice that you can play around with, so you will have some capabilities to do things. It's going to be super tough. That's where you got to kind of get the heck out of Dodge and hope nothing finds you on the way out, because you need to rest and recover. So your strain, and that's what I was talking about before in terms of things like exhaustion, whether this strain comes from exhaustion, whether it comes from damage in combat or something else, you have to account for it. And that's the kind of mechanical part of, oh, you've been traveling for 20 hours and now no rest. Well, you have 2 strain. So now you need to try to do something. Well, you got to account for that strain first. And you only get to roll the dice you have left. And if you can't roll dice, then, well, you can't do anything. And if you have more strain than you can fit, if somehow you ended up with these 2 and you pick up 2 more, well, then you're back to being in kind of dying state. So I think I think it works pretty well. And I like that it models some things. We're also being very much leave it up to you how to explain things, how you want it to be for your character. Like I said, it doesn't matter whether it's mental, physical, it can be exhaustion, it can be damage, can be terror or fear. It's just strain. And you decide as a table, you as a player, mostly, I'm just taking input from the game master, whatever, how you want to register that strain. But you're going to have to figure it out. And if it means that, oh, I can't pick locks as well because I'm scared crapless, that works the same as I can't pick locks so well because I hurt my arm. Like my arm is fractured. It kind of works out to the same mechanically. So yeah, either way, you're not at your full capacity. And how do you account for that is that you're losing dice to account for strength. Yes, the your hit dice or hero dice are the buckets that you empty out. But whatever hits here, you have to account for it. So if you start a combat and you got 2 strain, it's hard because then it's like, well, I'm not gonna be able to roll many dice. And then guess what? If I don't have any armor and I get hit, where are my first hits going? They're going right to the core. So, and I'm calling it core just for right now. I don't really know what it would be called. But the kind of epiphany I had today was this idea of sacrificing your armor, which I like a lot. I'm definitely going to keep that in. I think that's a really cool thing. And then we can come up with some like, well, what does magic mean? Does magic just give you 1 more box? Does it do something else? Like what I want it to be something good. So maybe it doubles the double. Like if this were a magic, for instance, maybe I'm going to just use it differently. Let's say if I just made a, whoops, I'll use the other one. If I was doing something like, okay, sacrificing armor, maybe it's ×2 absorb for mundane times, I don't know, I don't want to get too mathy, but ×2 ×2 plus maybe the magic bonus for magic armor. I don't know. In other words, i.e. a +1 helmet. Helmet +1 helmet could be sacrificed for ×3 absorption, something like that, right? So so it means that it's going to be hardier because it's already going to be. I think the other thing with armor might be right that 2 plus the magic bonus. So +1 helmet would be ×3, and maybe whatever your bonuses were would also give you another kind of thing. And it might even be with magic that whatever the bonus one is comes back. That's another. I like that too. So magic armor regens, or say magic armor gains extra absorption for each bonus, and then also magical absorption slots regen at start of each turn, or I say round. Another good idea, if I do say so myself. So that makes it really easy because I remember I'm trying to be broadly compatible with something like BX. So you run into a +1, whatever. So that would mean that a +1 leather helmet, you get an additional. We're going to call this leather helmet 1. You'd get 2. And we can give this a different color. Let's give it a little green. We give it a green tinge, and apologize if folks who have color. I don't know if that's contrasty enough to show up if you've got different vision types, but anyhow, this magic one. Let's see, where's my glyphs? Where's a good magicy looking one? What's a good magicy looking symbol? Oh, these are some kind of, you have like a fire glyph hand. I don't know, what's that? Oh, there we go. That works actually. So let's say that this was a magic slot, that the magic slot will come back. That way you get some back. So now if you have this leather helmet +1, you effectively have 3 hit dice for defense. You can't use this +1 to attack anything, but your defense is upgraded. Same things they'll apply, right? Though maybe I don't need the doubling, because now instead of this, so this originally would double to 3 or double to 2. Now this one doubles to 4. So maybe I don't need this actually. That's actually, oh, I like that. So that's, yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. It's a little bit easier to do. So now I don't have to worry about doing some maths. You just double. You double whatever it is, and the magic ones will have extra slots, and those will double. But then again, once you've done it, you've done it. So if this person needs to account for all this, if they destroy the armor, the helmet +1 is destroyed. They don't get those slots back. Those slots, it's burned, it's sacrificed, it's gone. But you can do it. And I think the interesting idea is we can have different types of armor to defend against different things. Like this is physical armor. So now we can think about, well, what is spiritual armor? And what might be kind of mental armor? Like what could we have? And that makes you have some really cool things like, oh, he's got a lucky rabbit's foot. Maybe that's spiritual, maybe it's your mind thing. Maybe the little picture you keep of your loved one in a thing around your thing, like that's a spiritual, maybe that's a mental one, or some other kind of thing you have. Or it could be, you have a holy symbol. We talked about holy symbols yesterday, and that anyone could use kind of a holy symbol to do something kind of clerically. Well, now maybe that holy symbol has another thing, that is something that's kind of your spiritual armor. But again, you may have to destroy them. And I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to go down the path of telling you what that stuff means, but that's opportunities to have fun in the role-playing sense of, I've had this, my father gave me this lead cross that I've been wearing around my neck that I've had since they passed away, and every time, whatever, now it's gone. Like, what does that mean? And if you want to role play, if your table wants to role play that out and have a meaningful character moment around that and really turn that into something, then great, you can do that. Another beer and pretzels kind of thing, it might be just like, oh, well, in the trash. Also totally fine. And I'm not going to, and in terms of me and as putting together this set, I'm not going to mandate to you, this is what it means to you. And this is, you can totally have it up to your game, but you can have these things. They can have some kind of mechanical meaning. They can have and fictional meaning, but the extent, however you want to balance that out, I think is up to you. Well, this was good. I'm gonna have to save this little piece because, and the way I look at it, kind of one thing to look at is like, obviously I would want to clean up, but your character sheet could look a lot like this. You're gaining, some area where you're adding boxes as you're gaining levels, something tracking, your thing. Okay. And then something where you're adding some, obviously have to make it bigger, whatever, move things around, so that you're adding more. But then, then it's whatever equipment you have. And then if you have kind of some skillish kind of stuff, if literally just might be how you use it, what do you know? And how do you're kind of some of your skill level stuff, and then you're done. And that's it. And then when you either, however levels work, whatever, it's really just adding hit dice, and then anything your kind of class stuff, though, again, doesn't really have to be a class. Part of the thing I was thinking about is maybe it's just kind of make your own class, that when you write up a character, you kind of determine what their class is, kind of what skills are their sort of primary, secondary, tertiary, and then everything else from that is just adding. You're adding up to that. We will continue this, but this was a fun got to kind of explain this and sort of map it out a bit, and I think it's good. I'm excited. I'm excited for it, and this was excellently done. Thanks for hanging out with me. Don't forget the things. I'll try to as soon as I hit the stop button, I'll try to go and add comments or add a comment with the links to the Antarctic Hex Crawl Jam, which I think Adventure Jam, whatever they're calling it. I think it's Antarctic Adventure Jam. I think it'd be a lot of fun if you're into it. I've got stuff on the Discord. The forums are going to be my main where I'm going to be kind of putting stuff. I'll mention Discord, and I'll do stuff on the Discord also. But I like forums for this kind of posts of stuff. So that's where I'm going to be doing that. So please join the forums, or at least come check it out. Let me know if you're going to join the jam. That'd be a lot of fun. Later on this week, as I mentioned, maybe on Friday, we'll do our own Homes Day 2025, looking at the Homes box, and then maybe sometime else, maybe take a look at Borshak, that Borshak dungeon that folks I've seen it popped up on my feed a couple times, and see what's what. Still figuring out what I'm going to do. So tomorrow on the main channel, I'll have some kind of video. Not sure what it's going to be yet. I might read, which I mentioned earlier, that article I found, just because I think it's kind of fascinating, in the Dungeoneer's Journal. But I got some other topics too. We'll see. Play it by ear. That's all I got, folks. Have a great rest of your day, night, whenever you end up watching or listening to this. Game on, and I'll talk to you later. Bye now.